everyone, and welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is day 4 of the testimony in the trial of Richard Allen. We are in Indiana versus Richard Allen, and this is for the double homicides of Abby Williams and Libby German, the two 14-year-old girls who were found unalived in Delphi, Indiana. And the case is now underway. Testimony is underway. We are going to recap day 4, and we will also go over. Sorry, my brain's in like 10 different spots. We will also go over a motion that the defense just filed to bring in Odinist Norse religion talk again. They are bringing this. They're revisiting this because they believe that a door might have been opened. And we're going to, as we recap day 4, I think another door might have been opened. So let's get into it. Please hit that like button and let's begin. So Caitlin Kendall where is she from? Sorry, I gotta scroll all the way back up. She is from WRTV, Good Morning Indiana, Emmy Award winning anchor and journalist. So I'm going to read through her. I like to bring you different perspectives. We're going to go through a couple different perspectives and different people's recaps, which some of it might be repetitive, but some of it might give us new information. So there's a reason why I picked all the ones that I did. So here is day 4 takeaways from the Delphi trial to follow this thread. This is Caitlin Reports is her handle there. So Caitlin Kendall, the day started with lengthy presentation of evidence introduced by the state. Crime scene investigator Brian Olahai took the stand. Olahai detailed evidence that was found at the scene. Some of the evidence included a Converse shoe, which would have been one of Abby's shoes. Also, a shoe found on the body of Abby, which I believe is also Abby's. She had Converse, and we know that Libby had black Nikes that she wore everywhere. So it must have been both shoes were Abby's, the Converse. A .40 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge, a collection of strands of fibrous materials and swabs of blood. Most of Brad Rosie's cross-examination centered around what they call the lack of photos of the bullet. Rosie presented the swabs to Olahai and asked if any of the information on the swabs, so all these swabs taken at the scene, does it link in any way to my client, Mr. Richard Allen? The answer, no. So why are we here? I don't know. Until today, we had only seen a few seconds of the video that Libby took on the Monon High Bridge. Today, the jury saw about 40 to 45 seconds of it. Indiana State Police Lieutenant Brian Bunner, a digital forensic expert, testified about his role in examining information captured from the phone. So he's the one that did the data extraction of Libby's phone. Bunner discovered the video that Libby took at 2:13 p.m. on February 13th. So the video that was shown in court, the bridge guy video, the down the hill video, whatever you want to call it, it took place at 2:13 in the afternoon on Libby's phone. The video shows Libby filming herself and Abby on the bridge. At one point, the camera points up and you can see there is no one behind Abby. So the man on the bridge, is nowhere near them. He's far in the distance. However, in a later shot, it shows a man walking behind her. The man has been called Bridge Guy. You can hear a voice, presumably Libby, say, "There's no path, the trail ends here, so we have to go down here." Following that, you hear a man's voice, according to Caitlin Kendall, and other people have reported that there is no man's voice in the video. So let that sink in. This is what Caitlin Kendall is reporting. Following that, you hear a man's voice through audio enhancement done by the Indiana State Police. So already we know that it's been enhanced by ISP, so how can we trust it? But it says guys down the hill. But the interesting thing is, so when the audio is playing, the man on the bridge guy, He's far off in the distance, so there's no possible way that you could hear him say guys down the hill if that's the bridge guy way off in the distance. So it's very feasible. And I don't know if I'm the first one saying this, but what if there was someone else with Libby and Abby at that time? A gentleman, a man already at that time? Or is ISP just lying to us and throwing in this voice and doing a voiceover with this guy when it's not even his voice and we have no way? How did we get this bridge guy's voice to say guys down the hill? I don't know. It's just all very confusing. You can hear a voice, presumably Libby, say there's no path. Oh, sorry, I read that. Okay. So we heard from a number of witnesses who testified to seeing the man from the bridge on the trail that day. Rayleigh Voorhees and Brianne Wilbur testified to being on the bridge and the trail that day and to seeing a man that they said was Bridge Guy. So there were 4 teenage girls that were there besides Abby and Libby that day that were off on the trail somewhere. And those are 2 of them who testified that they said they saw a Bridge Guy. Betsy Blair, another individual who was around, she testified to walking on the trail. She says that she is sure the man described as Bridge Guy is who she saw on the bridge. She says that she then saw Abby and Libby while she was walking on the trail. So I believe she saw Abby and Libby entering on the trail, and she passed them. Most of the defense line of questioning attempted to lay foundation that Richard Allen is not the Bridge Guy. They questioned Blair Voorhees and Wilbur to testify, or who testified to seeing Bridge Guy that day, but described him in a way that appears to be very different from Richard Allen. Voorhees' description of who she saw that day was overdressed for the weather, Caucasian, a larger man with a big build, dark clothes, face covered over the nose and mouth, wearing a hat, dirty blonde hair, brown eyes, wrinkly kind of face, and a square jaw. And I just want to point out Richard Allen has blue eyes. So this person says they have brown. And they're muscular, big builds, tall. All these descriptions don't describe Allen. So Wilbur's description is that they are between their 20s and 30s, and it was a taller man. Something was covering his mouth. He was wearing a blue or a black jacket. You couldn't see his hair, according to Wilbur. And this person was muscular, and he was wearing something on his head. So maybe like a hood. He had a hoodie on or something of that nature. All right, so Betsy Blair's description also says he's Caucasian and in between his 20s and 30s with brown poofy hair, younger, boyish look, youthful, average height, no facial hair, and no hat. Richard Allen also wears a goatee most of the time. So there's that. And he's also, I wouldn't describe him as youthful and boyish looking either, but I don't know. All right, so final witness day 4 was Steve Mullen, who was called back to the stand. He was an investigator in the case. He testified to the vehicle seen passing the Hoosier Harvest store on surveillance heading towards the trails. So he just brought some evidence in. Caitlin Kendall, continuing on, she says, many of you have been asking for what the people are like in court, so here's a summary. The jurors have been listening intently. They're asking questions and they're taking notes. The victims' families are incredibly strong and have been paying close attention. Alan's family seems to be in good spirits and is also paying close attention, and Alan himself is listening and taking notes. She says, however, when the video taken from Libby's phone was playing, her mother began crying and had to be embraced by family. So I heard that Libby's mother. So Libby was mostly raised, I think, by her grandma and her dad, but Libby's mother, who lives out of state, came to is attending the trial, or has been at least on some days. So this is actually Libby's mom, not the grandma. This is Libby's mother, who began crying and had to be embraced by family. No doubt it was hard for her to watch, for sure. All right, so the defense diaries is another one that I follow. This is Bob and Ali Mata. They are a couple, both lawyers. They have been following this case very intimately too. So I like to hear what they have to say. They say, finally, we saw the whole snap video off of Libby's phone. The morning session has concluded. It began with ISP CSI Olahai still on the stand under direct. So he was back from day 3. The bulk of his testimony was foundational in order to get the physical evidence admitted into evidence. That would include all the clothes recovered from the girls and from Deer Creek. Second witness was ISP Lieutenant Brian Bunner. He is the original digital forensic investigator who extracted Libby's phone on 2 occasions starting on 2/15 and in 2017. The phone was sent to the Homeland Security for a third extraction in October. So 3 separate extractions. Like, why do they keep extracting this? And then there's another individual, Chris Cecil, who also extracted data from Libby's phone post the Homeland Security doing it on multiple occasions as recently as the summer of 2024. So up until this summer, he's more and more extractions have been taking place on Libby's phone, which makes no sense. Like, don't you just extract it once and then you have it? Like, how many more things are you going to get? I don't know. The Snapchat video was entered into evidence and viewed by the jury. It was 45 seconds long, but didn't feel like it. The man in the video is so far behind Abby that it is very difficult to see him in the original video without enhancements. Unfortunately, it was only played one time by the state for the jury. On cross, the defense brought out a fact that the longitude and latitude of the video, according to GPS, was at Memorial Park, not Monon High Bridge, which is weird because it's about a mile difference or so. So the GPS put them at Memorial Park versus Monon High Bridge, which is weird. And I highlighted here the feds and Homeland Security because I'm like, we hardly hear about the feds and Homeland Security. Like, they were on this case at some point, and then they were told to leave or something, I think, by ISP. So I don't know why the feds were involved in this case. What was their involvement? What did they do? I really have questions about that. And why didn't they pursue other things if Alan is innocent, which I firmly believe now that he is. So trial for the day ended right at 5 p.m. It was an interesting end to the day as the state called 3 witnesses that were on the trails on 2/13/17. After the break, Brianne Wilbur, who was with the previous witness, Rayleigh Voorhees, on the High Bridge that day. Wilbur had a timestamp photo from 1:26 p.m. when they were near the bench while heading back towards the Freedom Bridge to leave. Her timeline is significantly different than Rayleigh's, which means that when each of them believes they saw Bridge Guy, it's about a half an hour or more apart, as Rayleigh stated that she saw Bridge Guy at 2:15. Betsy Blair then testified that it was, so yeah, that's about 45 minutes. 1:26 was the photo from Wilbur, and then 2:15 is when Rayleigh said they saw Bridge Guy. So that's a 45-minute difference there. So there's no way that it's the same person that they're talking about. Betsy Blair then testified it was very interesting. Steve Mullins was the last witness to testify as he was called to the stand. This time he testified regarding a correction of the timestamp of the Hoosier Harvest store. The feds verified that the video displays a timestamp that is 54 minutes fast. He then displayed still photos of Betsy Blair, Kelsey German, and Sarah Carbaugh's vehicles coming and going. Again, interesting stuff. Join us live. So they did a live to recap day 4, and another thing I just wanted to note, there was not one in-court identification of Richard Allen by any of the 3 witnesses that believe that they saw Bridge Guy on 2/13. So not one of them have said that Richard Allen is Bridge Guy or that Richard Allen looks like Bridge Guy. Nothing ties Richard Allen to this Bridge Guy description. All right, up next, R&M Productions posts. Today, it was revealed that Bridge Guy video and audio enhancements weren't actually enhancements at all. They were created via interpolation. So this means they use predictive AI. They used AI to create the video and probably the voice that we all saw that law enforcement told us this is who we're looking for. It's AI, not real. So predictive AI is not evidence and should never have been allowed to come into trial. The state's case is a lie. I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. I want to go back over the testimony here. Donnie Burgess gives us a description again, what Brianne Wilbur called this, how she described the individual. She said, or he says, that Brianne Wilbur is actually friends with Libby on Snapchat. I forgot this little portion. So Brianne is friends with Libby on Snapchat. Libby, who is one of the victims, messaged Libby that day. So this Brianne Wilbur also messaged Libby that day because they were both on Snapchat at the time, and it like tells you who your Snapchat friends are and if they're near. So they started messaging one another that day to see like, hey, are you still here? No, we just left or whatever. Brianne Wilbur also says that she passed Bridge Guy, said that he appeared to walk with a purpose and had a black or blue jacket on with blue jeans. So that could very well be Bridge Guy. She said that he was a taller guy. I believe Richard Allen is like 5'5", 5'6", or something like that. He's not very tall. He's short when it comes to the height of a man. All right, transcripts of previous statements include Wilbur saying that Bridge Guy was muscular. I would also, no offense, Richard Allen is not muscular. In fact, he was probably a little overweight when he went into prison. He lost a ton of weight there because they probably stopped feeding him or he stopped eating. He was in major psychosis for a while, so he probably didn't even think about eating. And then they put some weight back on him to make him not look so frail, I think, because sympathy. People were having sympathy for him, so I think they're like, we got to get this guy to eat. So Betsy Blair said that she went to walk on the trail frequently, but not from Delphi. So she's not from Delphi. She's either not from the Delphi area or she didn't get on the trail from Delphi. I don't know, one or the other. She saw Abby and Libby while she was walking on the trail. She also eventually saw a Bridge Guy. She said that she described to a sketch artist that he had brown, poofy hair. He was in his 20s to 30s, average height. The jury asked if she could have mistaken his hat for hair. So that was one question from the jury, and she said, I could have. And I think this is important because she brings up the sketch. She talks about what she described to the sketch artist. So I think this might have opened the door for the sketches to come in because, as we know, Judge Gull denied them coming in. Here's a picture of Bridge Guy, just FYI, because as we remember, his face is blurry, hands in pockets, blue jacket. Looks like maybe a red shirt underneath, blue jeans. Can't tell what shoes he's wearing. It's very blurry. Very blurry. You can even see like all the trees, branches and stuff are really blurry. The ground's blurry. So like there's nothing in focus. So they definitely zoomed in a lot and enhanced it, especially if they're saying that none of the people were seeing Bridge Guy in the video that was playing. All right, so day 4 of the Delphi homicides. This is Max Lewis with Fox 59 anchor reporter. Day 4 of the Delphi homicide trial has wrapped up. Here's the takeaways. Big moment when Betsy Blair, who was walking the trails on the February 13th, testified. She described Bridge Guy as boyish with brown poofy hair. Her description was the basis for this particular police sketch that you're seeing on the screen. Looks nothing like Richard Allen. Blair testified that when she saw this bridge guy picture on the news, she immediately knew it was the man she saw on the bridge. When asked why her description had clashed with the photo, she said that she made that statement when she was comparing two sketches. So again, probably she brought in, mentioned the sketches again. So Judge Gull had granted a motion by the prosecution to prohibit the use of those sketches in the trial. However, defense attorney Andrew Baldwin told the judge they will have to discuss the opening of the door on the sketches since Blair brought it up, which I agree. I think it probably did open the door, and they're going to have to probably file a motion on that. We luckily have a new motion from them regarding the Odinism. We'll get to that at the end of this recap. So, two other women who were teenagers at the time testified about going to the trails that day to take pictures. Both women said that they passed bridge guys. So, these are um, Voorhees and Wilbur. They both said they passed bridge guy. The first woman, Rayleigh Voorhees, said he was overdressed for the weather. She said the man had a mask on over his nose and he was kind of unsettling. During cross-examination, Jennifer Auger pointed to a statement where Voorhees said Bridge Guy had on black jeans, a black hoodie, black boots, and a black mask. When asked by Auger, or when pushed by Auger, Voorhees said, I think my memory had been impacted by the imagery, meaning the image of the Bridge Guy released publicly. But I'm not sure how they could have, because if she was saying he was all in black, but the Bridge Guy is actually in blue jacket, blue jeans, different description. But during redirect, she told prosecutors she was certain that Bridge Guy was the man she walked past. And again, there's a picture of Bridge Guy. Moving on to Yellow Jacket, who also has some great posts and updates on this. She says, insane reports coming out after that infamous 43-second video shown once by the state today. Did we all get trolled by ISP? I think so. The Guys Down the Hill video, okay? So the words themselves, Guys Down the Hill, is not heard anywhere in the 43-second video that the state claims is the last communication on Libby's phone. Some reports claiming it may have cut off. So is that phrase still there? But then Caitlin said she heard that, but actually she doesn't say she heard it. She said that that's what's on there definitively, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that she's reporting accurately. Where was I? Yellow Jacket, sorry. I have so many tabs open because there's so many updates. So Guys Down the Hill isn't on the video. The victims don't seem like they were scared. There is no intention. They're not intentionally walking the man. So they're not scared of anything. They weren't intentionally recording the man that was walking in the distance. You can barely even see him. He's so far away. So that's what people are saying. The victims were playful and casually conversational, taking a quick video of Abby on the bridge. So it was just a lighthearted, fun little thing that they were doing. Abby can be heard saying something like, there's no path or trail ends and we can go down here. And then you never see Bridge Guy. Seems no confirmation Bridge Guy closed in on them or that there was any confrontation. So no confrontation. He's nowhere near them. The down the hill words are never heard. Or maybe they are, but if they are, how is it Bridge Guy who says them if Bridge Guy's far off in the distance? How is he the one saying them if those words were said at that time? It just does not make sense to me. They're two different people. It's a possibility there could have been another person with Libby and Abby. Maybe they met someone there and there was someone with them walking. I don't know. And they just weren't in the video. I'm not sure. Not speculation on my part, but if there is a voice, it's not Bridge Guy's because he wasn't there. All right, so zero mention of anything that sounds like gun or anything ominous, which we've been hearing too from the prosecution, is that we're going to hear the girls say he's got a gun or something along those lines. We never heard that. So no mention of a gun. And the defense is pushing for answers regarding the discrepancy in the video's metadata with the longitude, latitude, and why it puts them at the Memorial Park and not the Monon High Bridge. This makes me think even more that they met someone there and they took off in a car with them, potentially, and then came back later that day, or later that night in the morning. Having been abducted, I mean. So, yeah, it would have been, like they met someone there and that person potentially abducted them or tricked them into getting into a car, because that was a potential possibility that someone had brought up, that they got into a car somewhere off the trail, that there's a place where people could park, and she could have gotten into a car, or they could have gotten into a car. I don't know. All right, so this last, or it's not the last. This is one of the last updates. So this is the last individual we're going to do for updates. So this is Angela Ganote, also Fox 59 Morning News anchor. So she says, today our team at Fox 59 was able to view hundreds of documents, depositions, exhibits, etc. involved with the Delphi case. Our team had to fight hard over many weeks to get access. One of the highlights is a prosecution exhibit of Richard Allen's handwritten confession, supposed confession, to the homicides of Abby and Libby. Our team got permission from Special Judge Marianne Voorhees. Is this related to the witness Voorhees? Our team got special permission from Voorhees to make and use this recreation on air and online. Below is a recreation. Our team took special care to make it look like the original as we could. Allen writes that he is sorry. Blah, blah, blah. He is sorry and ready to confess, and he wants to tell the family that he's sorry. So this isn't even a confession, but this is what they claim to be a confession. Remember, this is a recreation. This is not actually real. But so it says the Indiana Department of Correction request for interview Richard Allen. It says, I am ready to officially confess for K-I-double-L-ing Abby and Libby. And then he signed it. And he says, I hope I get the opportunity to tell the families I'm sorry. And we're supposed to believe. And this is also after he had been in solitary for how long now? And since November of 2022. November was when he, like, ended October, November was when he was arrested. And then, yeah, this says March 5th, but I think there was someone on the stand that said he actually dated it and it was supposed to be April 5th. But either way, Richard Allen was in no mental condition to be writing a confession, let alone, this isn't even a confession. It says, I am ready to officially confess. He's not saying he did. He's not confessing. So, I don't know. But that is one of the pieces of evidence that they were able to get. And lastly, Angela Ganote tells us that there were some jury questions as well. So she says, was the undergrowth disturbed under Abby to suggest that she was dressed there? CSI had no indication. When evidence is tested at the lab, how was it tested and resealed? She says, or CSI says, resealed and initialed, same container. Is it common practice to change gloves when collecting different pieces of evidence? CSI says yes, absolutely. Was the bullet collected in an envelope or a pillbox? They say envelope. And what identifies when evidence has been opened? CSI answered specific mark and seal and sign. That is it for those updates. Now let's get into the motion to admit evidence of Odinism, Norse paganism, and ritualistic KILLing. So comes now the accused, Richard Allen, by and through counsel, and moves his court to admit certain evidence that the court thus far has prevented the defense from presenting to the jury pursuant to its September 4th order. In support of said motion, the defense states the following. Number one, on Tuesday, October 22nd. So this was on Friday, or I'm sorry, on day 4, Brian Olahai testified concerning various aspects of the crime scene. During his testimony, CSI Olahai indicated that the sticks covering the girls was an attempt by the KILLer to conceal the girls' bodies, which is a ridiculous claim. On September 18th, 2023, the defense filed its first Frank's memorandum in which the defense laid out in painstaking detail, if you would read it, Judge Gall, that the various pieces of evidence that provide support for the theory that the crime scene contains various signatures related to Odinism and Norse paganism. On August 1st of this year, the defense provided the testimony of Dawn Perlmutter to the court. Dawn Perlmutter provided her CV and testimony at said hearing. Dr. Perlmutter's experience included, among with other things, training the FBI and other local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies concerning how to identify a ritualistic crime, and literally writing the book on ritualistic crime scene identification used by local, state, and federal law enforcement. So she literally wrote the book on it. Literally wrote the book. After reviewing the crime scene photographs and other reports and documentation, Dr. Perlmutter's testimony included her assessment that the sticks on the bodies, the F tree, and other aspects of the crime scene were textbook signs of a ritualistic homicide related to Odinism/Norse paganism, including using sticks and blood on the tree to form runes and bind runes. Remember, that's the combination of runes. It's called a bind, and you get, your spell or whatever, your incantation, your intentions, it magnifies when you bind 2 or more runes together. Dr. Perlmutter's belief did not come out of left field as law enforcement began investigating the Odinism/Norse paganism angle as early as 2 days after the girls were found, and law enforcement continued investigating the Odin/Norse paganism angle until the death of law enforcement officer Greg Ferenczi. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that that was the end of their investigation. That was a warning by the government, I think. Stop this. Stop this investigation. The state of Indiana has provided its explanation of what the sticks represent: concealment of the bodies. And Richard Allen has a Sixth Amendment right to offer the jury his alternative theory as to the reasons the sticks are aligned and arranged in the manner in which they are arranged. Denial of this opportunity to present to the jury all alternative explanations would leave the jury with only one explanation, the explanation provided by the state of Indiana, which is a problem. Additionally, the sticks on the girls appear to be arranged in a pattern/arrangement, or, at a minimum, using a person's own eyeballs. Common sense, logic, and reason would cause a reasonable person to believe that the sticks were formed into some pattern/arrangement and weren't being used to conceal the bodies, because the bodies were far from concealed. They just had a few sticks arranged strangely on them. Therefore, it could or would be confusing to a juror who might think that the arrangement of sticks was intentionally placed in a certain arrangement on the bodies, but then those jurors aren't being provided with any explanation for the way the sticks are placed on the bodies in a certain arrangement. Evidence of Norse paganism, Odinism, would therefore assist the trier of fact and alleviate confusion for the juror. So by bringing this information in, it would only help them. They need to know the context. Additionally, it has been learned at the August 1st hearing that the blood found on the F tree resulted in the state of Indiana retaining a blood spatter expert more than 7 years after the crimes. Dr. Perlmutter's testimony would be offered in part to counter the testimony of the state's blood spatter expert, and the accused has a Sixth Amendment right to counter their blood spatter expert's testimony. Absolutely, they do. Being able to provide evidence to the jury that Odinism/Norse paganism as an alternative explanation of the stick arrangement on the girls' bodies, including the testimony of Dr. Perlmutter, would offer the following. A rebuttal to the state of Indiana's explanation of why the sticks appear the way that they appear, consistent with the Sixth and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. A rebuttal as to the state of Indiana's blood spatter expert. And C, an alternative explanation to any confused juror who believes the sticks and blood on the tree weren't used for concealing the bodies, but rather believes that the sticks were arranged by a Norse paganist Odinist as part of a ritual. Defendant files this motion currently in part for purposes of a ruling in anticipation of the need to contact our witnesses in the event that the court reverses his ruling. His ruling. Judge Gold guy. All right, so that is pretty interesting, huh? I had a feeling they were going to have something up their sleeves, the defense. Like, I feel like this motion was probably hiding up their sleeves and they were just waiting to get the right testimony out so they could send this Judge Gold's way. And they have very good points. And if she denies it because of whatever reason, well, she hasn't given a reason. She says there's no nexus, which is a bunch of BS. So yeah, I'm sure she's going to deny it again, but I don't know how. It's not a reversible error, immediate reversible error if she doesn't. He has to be able to defend himself, and it just doesn't make any sense that they took that right away from him. And the only thing I can think of is they're hiding something. The government, the state. Yeah, the ones with the guns and the power and the money. They're hiding something. They're corrupt. Very clear in this case. So that's where I'm going to leave you guys. Hopefully this gets approved, but we'll see. I will keep you guys informed. Please hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys. Bye.